Hi, everybody. Okay, so the structure of the atom is this module, and you should have already answered the focus question. So we're going to just start talking about the early ideas people had about matter. So early Greeks and others believed that matter is made from four elements: earth, air, water, and fire. And they also believed that matter could be endlessly divided. And here I'm talking about the Greeks specifically. Um, and then along came this guy called Democritus. He was around from 460 to 370 BC, and he came up with a new idea. He said matter is made of atomos, which was his name for the little particles that it was made of. And he says atomos move through empty space. He says they're solid, they're homogeneous, meaning they're made of all the same thing, they're indestructible, and they're indivisible. And then he said that different kinds of atomos have different sizes and shapes. Size, shape, and movement would determine the properties of matter. So he was saying things like fire had a different type of atomos, water had a different type of atomos, air had different types of atomos, people have different types of atomos. And so he really just classified everything down to this little particle, and he said everything that you could see that was made of matter was made of these things. Okay? Now, there was another early philosopher. His name was Aristotle. You've probably heard of him before. He was around the same time as Democritus. He was a little older. Aristotle was around, actually he's a little younger, from 384 to 322 BC. And he absolutely disagreed with Democritus. They got into a lot of big fights about this when they were both alive at the same time. And he said empty space can't exist. Matter's made of earth, air, water, and fire. That's it. It's indivisible. There's no empty anything. Everything is filled with matter. And so they argued a lot. And they continued to argue until Aristotle won. And he won the argument for more than 2,000 years. So for 2,000 years, Aristotle's idea that matter is infinitely divisible and that there's no such thing as empty space was the theory of matter for science and for philosophy. Well, around the 1776 to 1844 period, okay, sorry, 1766, Dalton came along. And he's called the father of modern atomic theory. And he went back and he looked at Democritus's hypothesis because he had no way of testing it. And he said, you know what? I think he's right. And here's why. And he listed all of these different things that he did that supported it. He said matter is made of extremely small particles. He called them atoms to honor Democritus. And he said atoms are indivisible and indestructible. He said atoms of a given element are identical in size, mass, and chemical properties. Atoms of one element are different from those of another element. And so here he's saying elements versus just matter, because he's able to go down to a smaller level. He's able to observe things a little bit better than Democritus was able to do. Because remember, early Greece, they didn't have a whole lot of chemistry equipment. They were basically philosophizing. You know, they were just doing thought experiments. Um, Dalton also said that different atoms combine in simple whole number ratios to form compounds. Now, Dalton is the first person to really say this. Democritus and Aristotle both thought that each individual thing, like wood or plastics, which they didn't have back then, but metals, they were all different um, atomos, or different forms of matter. Dalton was really one of the first people to say, no, they combine and they create different elements, and the elements are made of these atoms. And then he says in a chemical reaction, atoms are combined, separated, or rearranged. And so he was really the first one to treat everything like a um, a whole, rather than, you know, like everything's based on this little atomic theory. And so that's why he's the father of modern atomic theory. Okay, so go ahead and finish up this page in your notes, and we'll talk about some of the experiments that helped us define the atom on the next video.